A very special event today to have this incredible group of women on stage to discuss their experiences, how they feel about the current marketplace, all of this good stuff. We're very, very lucky in the performance and direct consumer marketing world to have so many great women leaders out there. We hope that the women who joined us for the women's breakfast this morning at 8 a.m. presented by Yangaroo really enjoyed that and hope it was a wonderful event for all of you. And now we're going to get to this fine group. As always, we want to say thank you to our education sponsor, Pacific Media Technologies. PMT has a brief video they'd like to share with you.
Known for their superior quality and unequaled service, did you know that PMT is also an innovator in technologies that have transformed video ad services? PMT began investing in the latest cloud-based technologies and media tools several years ago, with a simple goal in mind: to be recognized as the gold standard in quality and customer care. Today, PMT's services have transformed what brands and agencies have come to expect in video ad management and production services. Fast, highly responsive customer care and turnaround times with quality guaranteed. Pacific Media Technologies. Technology-driven, quality guaranteed.
Wonderful group, Women Warriors, media executives discuss the present and future performance. Fern Lee, a member of our e-commerce council, a longtime confidant and helper for the PDMI. Thank you, Fern, for putting this group together. Take it away.
Thank you for having us. So welcome. I hope you're having a great PDMI. It's been a fun 3 days so far, and we're going to finish strong. I'm Fern Lee, the CEO of THOR Associates, a strategic marketing agency. Performance-based performance growth is key to us. I want to thank PDMI, especially Tom and JY and the team. Accolades for helping women rise up. Accolades for putting an omni-channel wrap around this session. Everyone will see there's magazines in front of you. Please take time on the way home. You're all traveling. Read the article. The feature article is fantastic. 18 women media executives answering some great questions, and I think you'll find it very interesting. Thank you to Yangaroo. We had a great women's breakfast this morning, sold out. Great heart, great passion, great communication, and it's just the start of things to come. Secondly, I want to call out, I know the panelists and I want to thank some other major media executives. Katie Williams, founder, phenomenal, brilliant woman. Nancy Langston, Marie Eden, Nancy Lascani, and Michelle Cardinal, to name a few. So without further ado, we're going to see women's warriors at their best. I'm going to introduce each person. Can you do the, thank you. I'm going to introduce each one of our panelists, and we're going to ask them one of the questions that are up on the screen, and then we're going to get into big Q&A back and forth. We hope everyone leans in. We hope that you find this interesting, and then we're going to wrap with the Q&A session so you'll have a chance to really put it to these four warriors who are brilliant. So can we do the next slide, please? We're missing one slide. You can go back to one slide. Thank you. So first we have Gina Pomponi from Bluewater Media, one of my favorites.
Picture saying, wow, I loved when my hair looked like that. Now I look completely insane.
So first question, how is it advantageous to be a woman warrior?
To be a woman warrior. You know, it's funny, to put the label woman in front of it, right? I just feel like a warrior. I feel like a strong DR professional. I work with a lot of men. I was very fortunate to grow up in a world with Marie Eden and a very strong staff of all women. So to me, and I'm sure you ladies feel the same way, we're just warriors. We're strong DR people.
Fantastic.
People, yeah.
You're people, that's exactly right. So Asieya Pimes from LWD, your question is, why did you decide to go into media?
I think I kind of came into it a little bit by accident. I hated my accounting class in college, changed into a marketing major. Saw a little ad in our high school, in my college career office for LWD, looking for an assistant. Took the job, and 25 years later, still there. So,
but amazing. This is the difference. So you heard the word assistant. She's now president of a major media conglomerate, okay? There are no glass ceilings in this genre. We're so lucky in this direct response, brand response division as women that we've had the chance to succeed. And then we have Michelle Green from 212 Direct. So let me ask you, how is it advantageous to be a woman warrior?
Well, I feel the same way. Like I feel like a warrior. I've developed a thick skin in the business. That's been advantageous. But the women piece of it, what I want to say is I have been so blessed to have been supported and elevated by competitive women that just want to, you're one of them, that just want to help me. And I think that that's like, it's remarkable, the women in this business and the way we support each other. And that, for me, is, yeah.
Well, that's right. We can be
We're friends, and
competitive.
we really genuinely want. There's enough to go around for everybody, and
That's
we
right.
really want to help each other.
Maybe that's because
Yeah.
we are women.
Well,
so
but you know
maybe
what?
if we were men,
No, I'll
we'd all
give
hate
you a
each
quick.
other, I don't know.
I'll give you a quick example. When I was doing long form and I was at Good Times, I used to get so excited when one of my competitors succeeded because that meant the audience was still there. They were still purchasing. There was still purchasing power out there. And my partner, who happened to be a woman executive, used to get crazed because she thought we should only, at Good Times, have the only long-form commercials out there. So I really believe that its competitors are great. You learn, you help each other, and you lift each other up. And then we have Anat from Canada. We brought a Canadian in, Kingstar. So tell us a little about your thoughts.
My story is the same as Asieya's. I was 23, I needed a job. I saw an ad to work in TV. It seemed really sexy. I applied. It was Ed and 2 other employees.
You met Ed. No.
Yeah, there were only 3 employees, and here we are 19 years later with a staff of 25.
It's fantastic. Kudos to all of you. You should all be really proud to have you on the panel. We're going to jump in next. Let's do the next question. Okay, so what is your omni-channel media strategy, and how does your agency implement these tactics for a robust ROI? You know, we all talk about KPIs, ROAs, ROIs, CPLs, CPAs. It's the most important part of performance-based marketing. How are we going to lift up our clients? So, Gina, why don't you jump into that?
Yeah, that's a great question because, you know, when I started, it was, you know, mostly you were buying local broadcast stations. There were 4 cables. You had to worry about response to a phone number. It was great. And then as it evolved, you know, you know, you guys probably remember when we started putting URLs on commercials, we were so worried that it was cannibalizing the 800 number response. And what the hell's going to happen? And, you know, now, you know, 30 some years later, it's how do you reach your audience? And they're everywhere. They're, you know, they're watching television. They're watching, you know, so many different streaming options. You reach them digitally, and those options are exploding. So you have to go about it in an omni-channel sense. You really do. There's no pull it off the shelf. Oh, you're an insurance company? Hold on, let me pull that down, or let me, you know, if it was, it'd be way cooler because I wouldn't be so busy. But every client's got different challenges and different KPIs. Even if they are, you know, in a similar category, they still have their own goals and their own nuances. So.
And Asieya, you have very different kind of clients, which is great. You have clients that do URL only, you have clients that are 800 number only and make their URL very, very small. So give us a little of what you think is important in the omnichannel world.
Yeah, I mean, like Gina said, the media environment has become so fragmented, right? We have to worry about duplication of audiences. Are we reaching the audiences too many times or too few times? So our approach is like to first sit down with the marketers and to really understand, you know, who is their target audience and what media are they consuming, and that's really step number 1. And you know, traditional TV, traditional radio still drives that top of funnel approach, right? We all know that, and we know that there's conversions that happen on all of the bottom of the funnel because of those 2 metrics. But I think what's important in the omni-channel approach is a test and learn strategy. So you have to really be strategic in how you're testing each of these new media tactics and understanding their contributions to your ROI. And so it really methodically testing into CTV has been the topic, right, of conversation right now. 30% of the impressions are going into CTV. How do we buy that, and how do we buy that efficiently? But also, what is that contribution to your overall, you know, overall mix and your ROI? The tactics that there's endless tactics, right? You know, nobody's an expert in anything right now because every day there's a new and emerging platform, and it's really important that you test and learn into those. We're seeing a lot of success not only with CTV, obviously as the extension of the linear, but also in the streaming audio platforms. There's podcasts and Spotify and Pandora that's working really well, all of the retargeting tactics and the ACR technology that's out there. So it's really, implementing strategically and making sure that as you test and learn, you build upon that core. We talked about
So
this.
Asieya, I'm going to jump in for a second, okay? Because you're teasing the next questions that are coming out. But how do you get your marketers to not look at silos? You've just spurred off at least 10 different channels. Same thing, all of you. How do you make sure that you're then focused in understanding how many touch points? Just like you said, there's top of the funnel and there's bottom of the funnel. And sometimes you don't get that flow, but you have to have the faith that knowing radio is one of the hardest things, to track, but it's an important part. It's definitely, one of the levers that you're going to pull. So how do you convince that, there is an ROI associated with everything? Sometimes you need to look at the total omni-channel package.
Yeah, you totally do, because it's the lift, right? So introducing things, as Asieya said, you got to make sure that you're testing with purpose so that you can read those things. And it's all about lift. And with Amazon, we know like 60 to 70% of people that are searching for a product or want to buy a product are going to check there first. So you've really got to make your clients understand before you start what to expect and what's going to happen in retail. Consumers have so many channels now. So that is it's a little bit of a challenge sometimes, but educating the client first.
But that is key. It's like you started with test.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about education also. Your partners, you're invested with them, okay? You're not just doing this and throwing things up against the wall to make money, because we don't want a client for 3 months, 6 months. We want that 5 year
We don't
to
make
10
money
year
unless
client.
they make money.
That's
So I
exactly
think,
right. And in
yeah.
the beginning, these 4 women are killing themselves. They'll put in 6 months worth of work before they'll even see their first ROI for their agencies. So can we go to the next? Click. Thank you. All right, so Anat, give us, how do you predict the digital CTV OTT media will compete with linear TV? And I know Asieya started jumping into that, but it's going to be, this is really the change. Asieya just gave us a great percentage, the 30%. As baby boomers start aging in, you'll see the older market, OTT and CTV are going to be so important. We're going to learn that we're just not a 60 and a 1/22nd, that 15s and 30s are going to become very prevalent.
So my perspective is Canadian. It's very, very
Yes,
different.
very
so
different.
you actually didn't take anything away from my answer. So we are probably a good 3 to 5 years behind the US for CTV. So we are just at a point now where our clients realize it needs to be a part of their weekly budgets to incorporate CTV. Right. So right now, and of course depending on the product and the demographic, but on many campaigns, the CTV is about 10 to 15% of the weekly budget. And they realize that they're never going to get everybody if they don't do both linear TV and CTV. And it's taken us a long time to get here. And we have a lot less options for them. But we're here. Finally, we're here.
But
so
that's
I don't see them as competing for me. I see them as working together.
Perfect. And Michelle?
Yeah, I would definitely say that they complement each other and they're necessary. I think with Connected or OTT through Connected, you have the best of digital and the best of linear combined. More targetability, more personalization. You've got the sight, sound, and motion of television, but then you are able to more finely target. So, but then there's navigation issues with it too. I think that there's walls around inventory, and it's more fragmented. It's still difficult, yeah. But with linear, I think even in the rise of streaming and over the top, there's more opportunity in linear. And if you want to test low risk, efficient, and with visibility, it's still linear's.
So do we think
still so powerful?
Do we think overall that CTV and OTT are working better for a brand right now versus a DRTV play? Give me a little thought on that.
I don't know about better, but I think that they have more bandwidth to take the risk. But the cost of entry has come down, so I think it's better in our DR space. The clients are less nervous about it. Minimums have come down, and so, yeah. I think it's working. I think we just need more comfort level.
So Gina, what percentage of your clients are using CTV and OTT?
I'll tell you, it's not working yet for hard sell, right? It just isn't. Let's face it.
Right.
And hopefully you guys have been beating up all the OTT people, as I have, because you got to make a place for us, okay? Yes, it can work in lead gen. Yes, it is working in lead gen. Yes, it's working when we have to get impressions. Even though those impressions are more expensive, it's a more targeted audience. But they've got to find a way to, let us do us, right? How do we optimize it? How do we make it better? Because if you live by the general advertisers and CPMs, you're going to die by them. So we're going to keep pounding you guys. I know you're out there. I can't see because I'm being blinded by these two lights, but we're going to keep pounding you to try to figure it out.
And Asieya, what percentage of your clients are using CTV and OTT?
Quite a bit, probably 80% of our clients. I think the issue is not that CTV is not working. I think it's the scale of getting it to the linear budgets is slower, right? And so we are pounding everyone to really understand DR disciplines and performance, and they're getting there. So it's
All right, next slide, please. So what are new and old tactics that will be in the forefront of performance marketing? So I'll give you an example. I have a client, an insurance client, who is finally with a 65 plus market. We're getting now into more digital. But with that, we still are call center agents because we're agents. We're trying to sell in Medicare Advantage. We need to talk. We need the agents to explain. Our average calls are 38 to 42 minutes. And we're starting to do literally retargeting. But what's old is new again. We're doing postcarding, okay? But we're putting the pixel on the Form A, so we're doing the best of the best, and it's working phenomenal. So we're mixing old and new. So Gina, talk a little about that.
Huge one. Because at one point, didn't everybody think direct mail was kind of dead?
Yep.
In the 90s and even I guess the early 2000s, your mailbox was just full of junk mail, right? I hate to call it junk mail because it's not junk. And then everything switched to email, right? So now you can send out mail kits, you can do postcards, and you can do it for retargeting because we've got all this technology to do so, and your physical mailbox is not full. But I can't find anything in my personal email box anymore, right? So that's a huge one that's coming back around.
Absolutely. Michelle, your thoughts?
I think there's new tactics with the measurement, and with QR codes is a big one. And the way that the content's being delivered, I think podcasts are going to be huge because we're big storytellers. I think it's like almost 40% of America listens to podcasts. That's big.
It's a big number.
Yeah,
It's actually a
and
very
then
big number.
social media influencers, it's a new one. And then, it's kind of, I feel like it's like the buzz term of the show, what's old is new. There's still power in television. And
I agree. Remember,
yeah.
everyone said linear TV is going to be dead. 3 years ago, everyone's going to be
Right. Yeah.
5 years from now, no more linear TV. I don't know. I'm spending over $100 million a year on linear TV in short form, so I don't think it's dead yet.
120s are going to be dead
Yeah.
for as long as I can remember.
Absolutely. So let's talk about QR codes for a minute, because that was interesting you brought it up. Anat, do you have QR codes in Canada yet?
We just finished our very first test of QR codes.
And how was that?
Well,
Did you just wait? Can I ask? Because there's two different QR codes. There's one, some use scan to call, and then some use going right to the lander or the website.
right to the lander.
Okay.
So we spent 5,000 Canadian dollars, and we got 115 unique scans.
Wow.
I don't have anything to compare that against,
Yeah.
but I don't know if they took
pretty
away
good.
from it. But I was pretty impressed.
That's pretty good.
That 115 people took out their phones and scanned.
Now the key is going to be how many you convert.
Well,
As I was
unfortunately,
looking-
the client forgot to set that up, so
Okay,
I don't
now,
know.
But that's an always. That's an
So
always.
we're going to do it again, but 115 people scanned.
That's fantastic. I love it. Asieya, what are you seeing in QR codes?
I think QR codes are good for some incremental reach. I think there's definitely high compliance with them. Again, conversions, there's a lot of setup with QR codes, which we have partners that are doing really well. And I think they're going to become a bigger piece of the pie in the future.
I agree. And that's what, people forget. QR codes are so old. But remember, what did we just come out of, the pandemic? You didn't go to a restaurant, you didn't sit outside there was no menus, okay? They had a little plastic thing, and you went like this, and everyone's like, oh yeah, didn't we see those QR cards like 5-10 years ago? So I think, again, as people age in, they're used to it, they're getting more acquainted with it, I think that they'll go forward with it. Next up. So what was the most challenging, so this is really more of a mentoring kind of questions. So kind of like getting to know them. So I want to know, what was your most challenging experience as an executive, Asieya, and what did you do to help lead, your team and make them feel comfortable in the situation?
I mean, I think the most challenged we've been is in the last 3 years, right? It's not just the pandemic, but it's all of these emerging platforms and really trying to understand them. For LWD in particular, it's really, training a DRTV agency to understand CTV. I think a lot of what we had to do was hire the right people, which we did, and we hired a great team. Find the right technology, make the investments in that technology, and then really expand that knowledge to the rest of the agency, which we traditionally have been there, and we're linear TV buyers and planners. So I think it was a lot of mentoring to make sure that this is an unknown territory. How do we're all in this together, right? And how do we all, put our best foot forward? So the staff that we hired has been training the staff that we have, and we've been all working together diligently to learn this new landscape, and really just working. And then, in the post-pandemic world, right, we opened our office. We did adjust schedules, but we still required people to be in 3 days a week. People got used to being home. They got used to living their lives differently. So having that adjustment back and really working with and mentoring the women and the men at the company on this new, version of ourselves and the new version of the world. So I would say this has been the most challenging, really over the last 3 years, but I think you have challenges all throughout your career, and you work through them and make sure that I have been very grateful for the mentors I've had in this business, and who picking up the phone, and Gina and all of us. This business is the greatest business in the world. Where we can pick up the phone and call one of our competitors and have a great conversation, and we're all friends. And so I think that mentorship is what I would like to pass along to not only people who work for me, but others in the business.
Anat, how do you feel?
So for me, I have a reputation in Canada with the networks of being a really, really, really tough negotiator. Very fair, but
shocking.
Really
No.
tough. But I'm nice
The
about
nicest
it. But
person.
It's tough.
The nicest person.
But I think that's really scary to some of my staff, and I have to lead them a completely different way than I negotiate. And it was really hard, being one way and then coming in and leading a team of 20 and being another way. But I figured it out. So what I'm trying to teach my team, who have teams of their own, is that you can be tough with the networks. You're not gonna bother anybody by asking, and you don't ask, you don't
Ask
get.
for the no.
It's on the fire.
So I'm trying to do that, and then you can still be a great boss and a great leader. So that's been my biggest challenge, was finding that balance. And now I'm trying to teach the others to do that as well. So
I want to go back to linear TV. You made the comment that 2 minutes are going to be gone.
I didn't make that comment. I've been hearing that forever. They're alive and well.
So where do we think linear TV is going to be in the next 3 years, the next 5 years?
I think that TV's going. We call it TV, right? But it's really watching content, right? And I'm sure Latimer's in here. And what did he say to me about content is king, but video content is king of all kings? And that resonates with me so well, right? And it's not about TV. My nephew comes over. I have an 86-inch television in my living room, and he's watching television on his phone. And I'm like, why the hell are you doing that? It's about that. It's about content and watching content. And it's starting to go like this, right? It's starting to be, what do you want to watch, right? It's not like when we were kids. Like, if you missed what was on television, you missed your show Thursday night. You missed your show. Like, it was over. Forget about it. Now you can watch whatever you want to watch when you want to watch it. Does that make our job a little more difficult? It does, right? Now it's 30% more difficult. In the next few years, it's going to become...
Well, it's going to be 70%.
It's going to be, it's going to keep creeping that way until it's like this, right? And I think the attention span of Americans, too, we're going to see more bite-size content,
There's
right?
so much content out there. I agree with you. You're absolutely right. It's overwhelming.
Look at TikTok. My assistant put TikTok on my phone, and this was for research purposes. And now my husband has to flick the lights when I'm on the porch for 2 hours, going like this. Because he thinks and I'm like, well, she said to buy this lipstick, so I did.
She said to buy
So
this lipstick.
it's working on me, and I'm not that demographic. I'm an old Xer.
Well, no, they said they're getting an older market.
They're getting an older market, yeah. So it's me. It's me on the porch.
So Michelle, how is streaming going to affect us? They say in 2 years, 70% of America will be streaming. How is that going to affect commercials? We hear what Netflix is doing. First they were going to have commercials. Now they're doing only on certain, because a lot of movies, contracts they're not going to be able to do. They'll start to do a 30-second, but they're only going to take certain kind of brands. I don't know how prevalent direct response is going to be. What are your thoughts?
I feel like I think, and I'm still learning, right?
Of course.
How to package it. Like if you are buying connected and OTT, you're really focusing on the retargeting, because we are very ADD, right? And so we don't know when the ads are being served, and so you've got to retarget. And I think as we move forward, we're going to have no choice but to live in that world as advertisers. There's that other revenue stream, like what's happening with Netflix. Like it's good for us and it's bad for us. But we adapt.
What do you think, Asieya?
I think we've already lived through so much, right? Like when we all first started in the business, there were 4 cable stations and broadcast, right? And we learned then there was more cable and less it's just, the market's ever evolving. So if we look at it as an impression is an impression, and and we're delivering video content, I think that there's going to be an emerging of the two worlds, but it's not all bad. We just have to adjust our way of thinking moving forward.
I think it's not just that world. COVID changed things, right? Consumer behavior and everything, and I think that traditional advertisers are realizing, like, holy shit, I have to talk directly to the consumer. Right. And like they just thought of it. Oh, okay, well, we've made careers out of it, but thanks for jumping in. Now the water's warm. Right. So I think that it's all kind of coming together. Retail's not dead, but it's dying, and there's so many other ways, and they can't just put this commercial out there that's fluffy nonsense. They've got to engage, and we're the experts at that. Right. So
I agree with you 100%. I actually think on the direct response side, we have huge opportunity for growth. Everyone wants to save money, right? And everyone wants to be a D2C marketer. Mm-hmm. So the marketers are shifting the way their way of thinking, and I think it's going to open a whole new market for us.
So let's talk a little about. I want to talk a little about creative, and then I want to talk a little about network and stations. So creative messaging, Gina, your company does both sides of the coin. Yeah. How important is to keep changing up your creative? In the old days, you'd make one creative, it would last a year. Now you're lucky if it lasts 2 months.
Yeah, or you changed it once a year.
Right.
Yeah, because it's hard to beat the control, right?
Right.
Well, creative messaging is super important. What are USPs? What are your benefits? What's gonna draw that? What's gonna engage? And more importantly than that is disruptive creative, right? Because you got to get their intention first. There's a formula behind it. I have my creative guys all sitting in the room, and it's not just problem solution.
But it's not. Let me jump in for a second. So we know that October 15th to December 7th. What do you see more than anything in the world? You see political and you see Medicare Advantage. And in the old days, all the commercials looked the same. It was graphic. It was a talking head. Mm-hmm. And last year, one of the aggregators came out with a woman named Martha. And Martha, it was the most disgusting commercial, but it worked. It was phenomenal.
Disruptive.
She was disruptive. She was a channel stopper. Everyone was like, the first time you watched it, you're like, no, this can't be. And then all of a sudden, the phones are ringing off the hook. So you're correct, disruptive.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But so Asieya, you have fourth quarter, big quarter for you. Yeah. So, what happens?
Love this quarter.
What happens when? What do you tell your client when you're testing and testing and testing creatives and they're not working? What do you do?
I think the messaging is really important, and disruption is really important, and consistent messaging across all of your media types is important. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's important to have an arsenal of creative and unique selling points and messages, and really thinking through the creative. It's become more important than ever to break through all of the clutter, and really thinking that through over the course of the year, and understanding, especially for your key seasonal periods, that you have, several creatives in your pipeline that you can continue to bring out and change up the messaging. Depending on the size of the budget, you might need to do that multiple times during just one quarter, so.
So, Anat, tell us, Canada, we know here politicals and Medicare Advantage take up our whole fourth quarter. What does it look like in Canada?
It sounds much better than it is here. It does not sound as challenging. I mean, it's definitely more expensive, like as people are buying for holiday. We have a lot less stations and a lot less people. And if you have a good budget, creative does not last as long. So you still need to have lots of creative, different creative. You still want to disrupt as well. And we have some clients now, that are service-based. Like we have one, and it's, you make your own wills online. But they're managing to do the problem solution, you need a will, you don't have any money. They're managing to use that same format as 2 minutes and put it into a 30-second. And it's working really, really well in Canada. It's easier to access the time, the better time. Still need 2 minutes. We still have lots of 2 minutes, but that's something new. That seems to be working really well.
Okay, so most do 120s, but now you're starting to see 30s, or most
do 30s.
Most do 30s.
But we still have our core 120 business. It's not going
so
anywhere.
like what percentage is 30s to 120s in Canada?
Probably depends on the client.
I'd say for us, it's probably 75% 30s.
Wow.
Really?
Yep.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yep.
Good education. And how often, do you see American-based clients come to Canada, or just Canadian-based clients?
Most of our clients are US-based.
US
that just want to access Canadians in the Canadian market.
Got it. Can we do the next slide, please? So Michelle, if you had a magic wand, okay? You have a magic wand. What would you do? What would you do differently? And what would you do? How could you turn back time?
So all the bumps and there's no mistakes, right? Like I wouldn't really do anything differently, but the big life change that I'm having, personal and business, is I need to be culturally aligned with anybody that I'm doing business with. So it's a client, strategic partner, like I didn't do that in the early days. A lot of trying to put, a circle in a square kind of thing, and it's great to be at this point. And personally, I'm calling it the no asshole rule. But professionally,
I love it. Could I get you to change the slide? Who's ever doing the slides? Could we do the next slide?
But professionally, it's just culturally aligned. And I have a small boutique agency, but everybody that works for me, I feel like they think like me, just because, and I'm lucky in that way. And great clients, but if it's culture and alignment. I didn't always do that. So
and that comes with maturity,
Yeah, I guess so.
As you grow and as your business grows, as you open the
Right.
funnel, there's things that, when you're young and you're starting out, it's a little different than the knowledge base and the wisdom you have. So, Asieya, what are your thoughts?
I agree. I think if we had to do it all over again, I definitely have a no assholes rule for the way I hire and the way the clients that we choose. But I don't know. I don't know if there's like a magic wand that can change back anything. You learn from every mistake you've made, and you are who you are because of those mistakes that you made. So I don't think there's anything major except for cultural fit. Is important. And again, I think that happens with maturity and time.
Gina, your thoughts? I'm afraid what she's going to say, everyone. I'm just afraid. We've practiced this over and over again. I'm afraid.
I should say what you told me I wasn't allowed to say.
You could say it. Go ahead.
She's like, what? I'm like, this is the woman that's been married 4 times. this talk is not long enough. Okay? Just want you to know that. But I think, I've always had a no asshole rule, and then I had to apply it to myself at some point. And that's helped, I think, for folks that work with me. But I think I would have, my personality's calmed down, believe it or not. It's calmed down a lot. I think
It's
I
true.
would,
That's a scary
had I
part. It's
known
true.
Bluewater existed and was somewhere, I think I would have sought them out. Because they are assholes like me. No, they're philosophically, it was a better fit for me. I'm just the, and I think that's growing up in DR, right? We're the, not the, Yeah, Madison, Fifth Avenue, whatever.
And Annette, your thoughts? If you're given a magic wand?
I wish that I'd learned sooner than 8 years into my career not to take everything so personally. It is always, at least in Canada, at least for me, it's always media's fault. It couldn't possibly be anything else. It's always my fault. I took everything so personally, and it's hard, whether it's the stations or the clients, but if someone was always upset, even the staff. So since I've been able to do that, it's so much better. It's not my fault, not always my fault.
You know, we
And
always
you just-
heard, yeah, it's
you
always,
just
it's media. Everything's media. It's never creative.
Yeah.
It's
Couldn't be.
always media.
So you just, you don't take it personally, you try to figure out what's wrong, you try to figure out who has a problem, deal with it, move on, and just not get hung up on my own. And it's been so much better since.
I agree. So Michelle, if you want to impart some wisdom, you know, what's some of the most important things when people get into linear TV? When a new client comes to you, what are some of the things you impart to them?
That you don't have to test big. You can test very small. So
Love
you can tweak, right, and test again. That the idea that you have to even spend $25,000 on a linear infomercial budget, you don't have to. Multiple creatives. I mean, I have a client that literally produces a new half hour once a month. And then I have a client that we're running the same creative for 4 years.
Isn't that amazing? But look at the dichotomy.
But
Isn't that
still kind
amazing?
of making it work. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, I think, you know, having the multiple messages for seasonality, and that we can do it so efficient. That's what's amazing about linear TV right now. Is there's so much opportunity out there, and in a lot of cases, the rates have come down. Just to get in and know if you've got something, it's so powerful right now, and it's not going away. Yeah.
Totally aligned. I mean, I hear that over and over again. People are afraid of linear TV because they're afraid of the cost factor. Till you break it down, they don't have to test 100,000. Yes, brands are coming out. When I was the interim CMO at MetLife Direct. Literally, the first week they go, "All right, we're going to spend $500,000." I'm like, $500,000? No, we're going to spend $25,000, and they look at me like I'm crazed. But it's like they're willing to throw everything up against the wall. But you don't have to Michelle's point, you don't have to do that. Gina, your thoughts? What would you like to impart?
I don't know what the question was because the wrong questions
No,
on the
don't.
board and my ADD kicked in.
I wanted you to impart something about linear TV and getting into linear TV and you know, opening the funnel.
Yeah, so, and that's a big thing. A lot of clients will come to you and they're doing digital, and it's, you know, it's very strong. And how many of you guys have to explain to them, okay, you're here and it's doing really, really strong, but the, you know, very, very, very small when we put top of funnel on your TV results, if you're looking at them in a silo, which you shouldn't, which is a different conversation you have to have with them, they're not going to be as strong. But everything, pouring that top of funnel on lifts everything. Right. It's the tide that raises all ships. So getting them to understand that, and that's how they can grow their business. But it is amazing. Somebody will be like, "We don't know what to do now. What's next?" It's linear television.
Right. So how do you you take a client who's digital? They only don't want linear. No. That's so old fashioned. That's out the door. But they don't realize, to Gina's point, it lifts them up. And if you wouldn't look at it in a silo, you'll see the effect it has. So what do you tell your clients?
I think with digital, what happens is there's really a cap on what they can spend there too at the efficient CPAs. Right. Much of what's happened in our business and the growth that we've seen is the tracking, you know, problems that they're having on Facebook, et cetera. So that's limited their growth, and to achieve that in efficient CPAs, and bringing in linear really helps drive, like Gina said, that top of funnel, helps conversions, and really, you know, rises everything, you know. And so I think, you know, really the test and learn, not spending too much money on the test, really understanding who your audience is, getting the right content. There really is no limit on the growth for linear TV. I mean, everyone keeps talking about how it's dying. It's not dying.
It's not dying. The
If
funnel's
anything,
opening.
we're seeing more and more people entering the market on the linear side.
So Annette, how do digital linear play in Canada?
Well, it's very easy to test on TV in Canada.
Okay.
It doesn't cost you a lot of money at all, and you can learn a lot with very little money. You can reach a lot of people. And for us, linear, and I think it's different for you guys, but for us, linear is still very much a relationship-based business. So it's not the rates are the rates and these are the rates. It's who do you know still and what are they going to give you. And so I always encourage, I mean, Jeff might have a different perspective since he's running digital, but for me, I always encourage, I say, let's test on TV because we're going to learn very, very quickly if you've got something here and if whatever you've got in the US is also going to work in Canada. And if I spend, I don't know, $18,000 to $20,000 on a 30-second spot in Canada, I'm still turning over like 700 to 1,000 bonus spots a week.
It's amazing.
And that has, and I can't do that in digital. It's not the
Right,
same.
it's not the same.
So I always encourage people to try TV at first to see
And
what
is
we
it
have.
more national, more regional?
We're
How does-
mostly national.
You're mostly national,
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, we're not buying, it's very expensive to buy like local broadcast. All our specialty stations are national. It's a much smaller, much easier market.
And have you ever seen somebody be so successful in the States and then they come to Canada and they're not?
Yes.
And what's the rationale?
Yes.
That's your trick question for the day. She was so worried I was going to throw a trick question.
No, it's just, I don't know. I'm trying to think over the years, but products that help stop the draft coming in from under your door. Like, we know how to seal our doors. It's cold.
We don't need
Obviously in America, we don't. Okay.
Yeah. So that just
We're a little more stupid.
It didn't work.
That's so
yeah,
funny.
and then I'm trying to think of like products that made really unhealthy food. Like not fryers, but like.
Oh, really?
Like.
The air fryers worked or
The
not?
air fryer, yeah, because
fryers would be
they're
good.
healthy, but I can't think of what it is now.
Okay.
Yeah, or something that takes your like tortilla shell and like deep fries it, so you can put your taco salad in it. Like, no, I'm not saying that, but that doesn't always translate. And then, 30% of our population is French, and they're very, very different in Quebec.
And so do most start nationally in the English-speaking community, and then if it succeeds, then you go and you translate into French, or do you make different commercials?
And not everybody can do that because
Yeah.
you need
The website,
the website's easy, the commercial's easy, but you need your French customer service. You have to have your whole experience from start to finish.
Right, exactly.
In French, but the French, it's such a great market because, if we're 3 to 5 years behind you guys, they're another 10 years behind. They don't have anything else to watch in French but their linear
that's
TV.
amazing.
And they
That's
have 15
amazing.
stations, and they perform amazing.
Put like Rosetta Stone.
That's
So
amazing.
I always encourage people to try the French market, but they don't really like pets. So any pet product, if
God.
it works in English, it's not really going to work there.
That's very interesting.
They tend to not get married. They tend to not have kids.
Uh-huh.
They spend a lot of money on like vanity items and so it's just it's a very, very different market. So it's almost like we're dealing with two markets.
But you are. It's interesting. It's fascinating. Listen, we're seeing that in the Hispanic marketplace in the States these days. So very different the way you talk to the Hispanic consumer versus how you talk to the English consumer. All right, we're going to throw it out to the audience. We want to do a lot of Q&As. I'm sure you have lots of questions for these experts. So, Tom, let's put it out. Thank you.
Hi. First off, thank you so much for this seminar. Really appreciate it. Scott Kennedy with Thrive Media. Just high-level question. What percentage of your clients are lead generating versus single transaction offer?
Well, Asieya, you answer first, and Gina will answer next.
I would say hard good single offer, probably 30% is that more lead generation now. Just I think the lead generation is really entering the market. Besides the traditional guys that have services and things of that nature, the kind of 2-step, 3-step process is there's definitely a growth in that arena.
Gina, what are you seeing?
I would say similar, maybe even less direct. The thing with like hard direct sell stuff is when it pops, it pops. So this year it could be like a little more. Next year there's not like a big, we've all had like our big crazy winners. So,
Michelle, what are you seeing?
We're like 50-50.
Yeah.
And what about in Canada?
I'm more in line with them, but all it takes is one big
One
winner.
One big
Winning
thing, and to
product
shoot
that
everything
skews
up.
everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
How you doing? Michael Weinstein.
I'm afraid of the question.
No, you're good.
better not be a question yet.
First of all, again, I want to echo thank you so much. And to your points earlier, if this wasn't labeled women warriors but just warriors, they would have pulled the exact same panel. So Very happy to have you guys here. My question is, are you seeing any changes in price points within the lanes? Like for short form, for example, are higher price points working finally, lower? Like, what are you seeing in terms of change in consumer behavior and with that regard?
Gina, why don't you jump in?
Yeah, I mean, you can always make the higher price points work. You just do a soft sell because you don't want to kill your front end response, right? So it's never been that we couldn't make thousands of Nordic Track, Peloton. It's not that you can't make them work. It's just what you put out there. I would still say don't put anything out higher than $39.99. There's some $49.99 unless you do like. I'm trying to think. There's always exceptions to the rule, right? So, like in 5 minute, it's great to have like you do $100, 3 pays, that kind of thing, because you have a little more time. Because remember, if it's a hard sell price point, you want somebody to pull their credit card out, so you don't want to. What's the cliche? Not just cut your nose off to spite your face. Get them to the site. Get them more info.
And so, what Gina's really saying, to make sure everyone understands, it's $1,000 products are selling on TV. But you're not advertising the dollar amount. So you're calling in, and the person who's answering the phone is going to convince you to take that credit card out. Asieya?
Yeah, I mean, I think the higher price point products have been working over the last few years. I think customers are looking for quality, and so when they see the traditional $10 price points that we've all done, or $19 price points that we've all done, they're kind of shying away from that. I'm going to say there's a recession coming, so maybe that's going to change. However, I think, test at the number that makes sense for your business. Don't be afraid of it. The 3 pay options, the multiple pay options are all great offers, and then obviously the trials are still working. So there's definitely ways to make these offers work.
Fern, what
Katie.
an awesome panel of great warriors. You guys rocked.
It's them.
Really
I'm so
fantastic.
fortunate.
You had great questions, really, really great questions. We should ask you your answers to all of them too. But I also wanted to say to the audience, if you're looking for agencies that are going to actually generate positive ROI for you, these are the people. And these tactics that they're describing are the way to go. I was in a previous panel and I heard people talking about buy Super Bowl and buy, big sporting events and so on. Yeah, if you want a brand and you don't want to measure your response and you have the budgets to throw away millions of dollars, go for it. But if you want ROI, this is the way to go. And so you've got a great group of actually super powerful warriors up here. So thank you guys. I loved every word. I had one question, which is kind of, I kind of know the answer, but you guys didn't talk at all about infomercials, which have been around forever and are dying, but is there still a path forward on them?
So I'm going to let Michelle talk a little about this, but one is...
Thank you for that question. I think that there is, because it's the best way to tell a story, and a lot of general advertisers have that opportunity to get into our space and tell their story. And so I don't think they're going away.
But what about, so I'm going to play devil's advocate. When I first started 100 years ago, everything was infomercials. There were this many short forms for DR,
right.
Okay, but this many infomercials. And slowly, there's this many infomercials and this many DRBR, 60s, 120s, 30s,
There's
50s.
less inventory.
And is that challenging?
I think there is less inventory.
There is, but not as, would you agree with me that it's not as bad as we thought it was going to be?
No, and also I actually think that the barrier to entry for long form is the cost of the long form, not the fact that long form isn't working.
Agreed.
I think that we need to do better, creative people out there, because that of creating long form that is not such a expensive inroad for the marketer to.
But so now I'm going to say, does the consumer still lean in? Everything's so fragmented. They want everything quick.
I think it's it's a different consumer, right? So
I see that when I'm talking to clients that are just breaking into the industry and doing a little consulting with them, sometimes it's unfortunate because they really should do a half hour, either because they need to tell their story or certainly if it's beauty or something like that, but they shy away because of the cost. They don't want to spend. $250,000. And I mean, I get that, right? And then you can go in and test an infomercial for under 10 grand and know what you got. So the media is, it's yeah. And so if there's I always say, because you should eventually do mid-length and short form to complement. So when you shoot the half hour, you can shoot it all. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Digital assets, everything. Are you, right, exactly. And then do you do infomercials in Canada? Educate us.
We do, and well, I can't believe anybody watches an infomercial, and I can't believe anybody gets their weather from the Weather Network, and all these things I can't believe. People are watching, and people are buying. We don't have as much time, but the time we have has come down so much in price, and we don't have as many advertisers. So part of my job is to find new long-form clients because, and again, back to French, but they work so well. So to find more long-form, to bring it to the market. I mean, I always say, at least for Canada, like any media can work at the right price. And the price is really right for long-form. So yeah, it's still, we thought it would be gone years ago, and it's still very big.
Interesting. Question?
Hi, Jenny Parrish with Ringba. When it comes to your media mix and when you're defining it, CTT, OTT, and linear, are you guys deciding based on the demographic that your customers are looking to reach? Can they be agnostic? Thinking about Medicare, a lot of people tend to lean towards linear because of the aging population. Do you guys see that Medicare is something that could be agnostic to CTT and OTT based on kind of where you're seeing the patterns?
I'm going to jump in. I'm going to take that since I'm the Medicare person. We are mostly running linear TV. Probably, when you look at our budgets, 99%. This is the first year we're playing in the CTV, OTT market. But as baby boomers age in, you'll start seeing it open up. We also are challenged in the Medicare world. Our 120s are always much stronger than our 60s, except that we're able to make local TV 60s work, which has been great. But we've always been challenged. And remember, with OTT, CTV, you're looking really at 30s, but we're playing in the 60s. We've tested 30s. They're just not ready, not working yet. We can't get the messaging across. We can't get enough benefits. When you're talking to that older market, you need to keep touching them over and over with the benefits. It's, you talk 50% auditory, 50% of visual. That's why you see a lot of these programs. You see whoever's there, they're speaking what's on the TV screen so that the consumer is getting it. So, not ready yet, but will it be ready? Just like QR codes, I expect it to be full-blown in the next 2 to 3 years.
I've lost my voice, so thank you. That's why you bring me here, right? I'm Matt with Blockboard, and I have a question because you bring up general market advertisers. Should be playing in this space more. Like, I work with those advertisers more than I work with DR advertisers. They don't think about the secondary KPI ever, but their secondary KPI is your client's primary KPI, right? So I've seen my advertisers, when we're driving their secondary KPI, take our publisher reports and put it towards their linear buys. They're seeing better performance on their linear. You guys seeing that as well? Excuse me, wow, that was terrible. You guys seeing that as well with what you're doing? Or are you using those reports from CTV at all and bringing it back to linear to better your linear performance?
I think both ways work, right? So if you have an advertiser we have some advertisers who start in CTV, they feel like the targeting is a better way. You can learn so much from that, and then when you add on the linear TV, you can take those learnings, and vice versa, right? For linear, I think in terms of performance, if you have a strong campaign, it works in both, in CTV and linear, pretty much on par, and especially in the e-commerce, space. And again, unit length is a big mix of this, right? If you have a strong 30 e-com, you're driving to web, you could see very similar performance between CTV and linear, and both will learn off of each other, especially with the extensions that the stations are doing at this point, with their apps. So.
Last chance. All right, thank you. Amazing.
Thank you, audience. Thank you for being here. Great job, you guys.
Wonderful, wonderful effort by everyone here. Great panel. Thank you, all of you, so much for taking part. We'll be back at 1 o'clock with a panel about why French Canadians hate dogs but love infomercials. No, but actually, we'll be back at 1 o'clock with a panel about first-party data and customer experience. So please join us then. Thanks. Take care.